future, only its possibilities. You have such a capacity for goodness. You
Really, this
always
quiet?
excelled, but not because you craved success, but because of your fear of failure.
It's what made me a great doctor.
It's precisely what kept you from greatness. Arrogance and fear still keep you from learning the simplest and most significant lesson of all.
Which is?
This right here.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. So this is super, super important. The reason why I love this line here, right?
But not
Just
because you crave
say it
success,
one more time.
but because of your fear
Fear
of
of failure, right?
It's what made me a great doctor.
What he thinks is it's what's
Precisely
made him a
what
great
kept you
doctor.
from
It's like that's what's
greatness.
precisely what kept him from
Arrogance and
being
fear
absolutely
still keep you
great.
from
Arrogance and fear
learning the
keep him
simplest
from
and most
learning the
significant
simplest
lesson
and
of all.
most significant lesson of all,
Which is?
that it isn't about him, right?
It's not about you.
So the whole point here is in both messages, what she's trying to convey to him is something of this guy who, for those of you who don't know the lore, he is this basically king in his kingdom, right? He was like the best surgeon in the entire world, gets his hand shattered, goes all over the place trying to get them back to work again. And then ends up here relearning everything that he ever knew, right? And is excelling again. But the thing that's keeping him from moving to the next level is the very thing that brought him to where he is. So there's two messages here. One is more literal in the game, which is a lot of the times when we see players, we see that a lot of the things that actually get them to whatever level, you could, if you want to look at it as online ranks, the very level that they got to, the tools that they do, the habits that they do, are the things that actually are keeping them from moving beyond. A lot of those things may get them killed, but it gets them to win most of the time, right? Or some of the time, right? And they're not able to undo their habits and rework their play in order to refine it to go to the next level. They can't even, sometimes they're not even aware, right? More often than not, actually, they're not even aware of the habits that got them to the place in order to undo them in order to get to the next level, right? It's a very, very difficult thing to do. Even some of those things that we do, right? Options maybe we choose to do in neutral, right? Or Anoki situations. Those options are, how do I put it? It's not even necessarily that you shouldn't do them anymore. It's that you just have to pick and choose more properly when to use them, right? Now that's the literalness of what's happening. But the more psychological part that actually affects the physical, like the actual physical gameplay, is the second part that she's talking about, which is that the very thing that pushes us and drives us a lot of times, especially the social part of the game and how it affects the actual game itself, is that part that Tiggy's kind of joking at, which is like silencing your ego, arrogance and fear, like all fit inside of this thing of our ego, right? The arrogance to think that we're hot shits and the things that we are good at, right? That feeling of winning, right? But then you also have the feeling of losing and the fear of that and the implications that it has. So being a streamer, for instance, is like one of the most obvious ones. When you have a bunch of people watching you and you're playing a match and losing on stream, right? And you see this loud noise of you lose, right in front of your face. You have all these extra things that come afterwards of maybe excuses and things like that we're trying to explain away the very fact that we see you lose on the screen, right? We're trying to be louder than the moment, but it's hard to ever do that because it's just very black and white, right? Whether we're making excuses or we're not, a lot of times, so the motivation around it is usually for everybody else, not even for ourselves, because the very ego of the idea of that we could lose, like like gets in our own way. We actually think we're that important that we're not allowed to lose, or that like something horrible's happening in terms of what everyone else could possibly be thinking about you. It doesn't even have to be a thing where a social situation is just a bunch of people watching you. It could be more of a loaded match, right? Where it's someone that you know, right? And like it could be with friends. It could be with people that are kind of, you know, they seem like a friend, but really it's a comparison thing of who's better, right? Sometimes it's other people making comparisons about you to other people all the time. Like that's how the social affects it, especially for us who play this game that is in a constant state of comparison because it's a competitive game, but also because we're on Twitch and Twitter and Discord. We play this game very socially, right? We're around communities, and it almost becomes like a small town scenario where everybody knows each other. So sometimes, just as much as when you lose, people remember it in the moment and then they forget about it the next day, you remember it forever. But also sometimes people then talk about it depending on where and how you lost, or they put it on Twitter and they see that. The point is that regardless of any of those external things happening, we have to dial in and focus on the game. But in order to do that, right, when people try and tell you, hey, dude, don't focus on all that other shit, just focus on the game, just focus situation by situation. Don't get tunnel vision and just focus on trying to win or get it to be over with because of the nerves, because of what's on the line, right? That's all the external stuff affecting the internal, right? The game itself versus everything else that's not related to just gameplay. What was I going to say? The dialing in aspect comes from one big aspect of dialing in comes from being able to let go of control, in the sense that you're not important. It's the same thing that Kobe was saying all the time, like in the interview, where like they're like, Kobe, how do you deal with like pressure at game time, right? It's the same scenario. It's just a game, but there's all this other external stuff that's happening that gives it like a loaded meaning, right? By multiple layers, right? And how he handles that, right, is that he moves the feeling of an ego that he has this incredible responsibility to everyone else to always win all the time, and a responsibility to himself, like he's important, where he's just saying, yeah, you have to get over yourself. You're not that important. Just like the Ancient One in Doctor Strange is trying to tell him that you're missing the most significant lesson here. You think about all this greatness and that you're this wonderful person. You're destined to everything, right? You're sick. Or my dad would put it, you think you're a hot shit. And he's like, you have to get over that and understand the most important lesson is it's not about you. It's like the most important thing. As soon as you do that, it takes a huge amount of weight. Like really, really do that. Like capture it and live it. You start taking the weight off of yourself every time you're going to match. And regardless of whether you win or lose, make excuses, don't make excuses, right? Hot shit, Papa P doesn't swear lies. Nah, he'll say that term for theatrics though. But he almost never swears, you're right. Whether you're making excuses, you're not making excuses, whether you win, whether you lose, whether you go 0-2 in tournament, whether you win the whole thing, whether it's somewhere in between, or that guy who also plays Ed and you're in a constant state of comparison, or play Geef and you're in a comparison, or it's your buddy and people know that guy and know you and like who's better, get over all that. Because all of that stuff only matters insofar as that you're thinking that you're important, right? The very fact of doing that more, pushing the ego more and more, is what creates the brittleness and the intensity with everybody else, and this crazy responsibility to constantly win all the time. And when that person inevitably loses because their ego is so inflated in that sense, mixed of arrogance and the fear of losing, they get very, very frustrated when they lose. Even if they don't lose often, when they do, it's usually pretty volatile, right? It's not just a simple message of getting comfortable with losing, right? It's a message of how do we compartmentalize part of the nerves of the response of the that we make for ourselves, right, from these external things in the game. You know, someone who's an asshole that you don't like and you're going to play them, you may be tunnel vision sometimes more because you just want to fucking destroy them. You know they play crazy and you're like, fuck this guy, and you're like, now the blinders close because you're like, I'm just going to kill him. You know, I just want it to be over. All those things, right? This is in depth. So that when I heard it, I was like, that is exactly like a huge systemic issue they see with everyone. Like that one is more important for us who are on Twitch and Twitter and Discord, because that's the social affecting the gameplay, right? Like that stuff ending up on Twitter, and people talk about comparison stuff there. It ends up in Twitch, and people talk about, I'm better than this person. Well, I beat this guy, so that means I'm this. Oh, I think that I'm at this level, or I think I'm getting better at here. It's like you're in a constant state of comparison. Like you're, and it only gets worse like with wins, right? I think consistency in tournament results is what people should look at. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to look at as indications. What's going on? I don't know if you've ever been here before, but welcome. The thing that I'm talking about is not a matter of understanding what the unit of measurement is to understand who's good and who isn't. I'm not saying how do we not understand that, right? All I'm saying is for the person who's going into a moment of competition, we talk about like any sport or anything. We always talk about dialing in, right? Shutting out the noise and focusing in on just the gameplay. There's a lot of people that the stuff that happens, everything else that happens, right? All the extra things that technically have nothing to do with the game, all the talking about it, right? On Twitter or Twitch or Discord, all the personal talks amongst friends, right? All the expectations. Even the very fact of winning and losing in the game creates social changes of expectations. An example, I have tons of examples of this, but I'll just use one without using names. Someone gets top 8 in a major tournament, and 1 week, everyone says, because this is Twitch chat, for some reason, they almost act like a different being. They're like, he's godlike, he's the best, he's amazing. Then the next, maybe 2 weeks later, they go to their local, and then they lose to people that they've never lost to before, and then don't win, and then everyone hears about that, and they're like, what the hell happened? This guy's the hometown hero. Michael Jordan lost in a fucking street ball game. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, the person didn't suddenly just become godlike and then suddenly regress. It's just things that are happening. It's all the stuff that led up to it. And you know what happened there? More often than not, it's just a mindset change where you have a mindset of a champion that's being formed, right? So the mindset of the challenger, mindset of the champion. I talk about this all the time. Challenger mindset is understanding that you're capable of greatness, but you have no expectations on you yet. There's nothing, you don't have anything to lose. You're trying to overtake, right? Champion mindset is understanding that you are capable of greatness. You have confirmed results in some one way, shape, or form of greatness, right? But you can't worry about what if I lose this. Both have to be there to balance it out. Understanding that there is no expectations. At the same time, you're also understanding there's no expectations in the challenger mindset, as well as at the same time as the champion, understand that you're capable of overtaking anyone, right? Right? Like these two things are the things that we have to balance all the time, because if you overdo one of them, you have the extremes happen, right? Oh, blow your mind. Well, I'm glad that at least it vibes with you in some way. So if you overdo the expectations, then you're missing the message of what I said, that it's not about you. Get your ego in check and understand that it's okay to lose. It doesn't matter if you went 0-2 the next week, right? Or that you lose in ranked or you lose at a battle lounge. It happens, right? Besides, forget about getting into literalness of the volatility of tournaments or being online or things like that. I lost a tourney the very next day and I was like, what the fuck? But it was just my ego. Yeah, it's not, ego isn't a bad thing. It's created systemically from the very things you're talking about, right? Tournament wins. Physical results in the game end up affecting the social that's out of the game. And then the social then comes back like a wave and affects us for the very next time we play in the game. You can't keep them exclusive from one another. And if you think that you are, you're kidding yourself. They intermingle all the time and affect us constantly. That just happens with anything that is in. If you wanted to be like, I always use the joke, but like, if you want to be a competitive basket weaver, these things still apply to you, right? It's not exclusive to Street Fighter. I even feel that cycle within a set. I'll take a game off a top player and just start negative talking myself. No way I can do it again. See, and that's the trouble with the challenger mindset. There's a difference between being humble, right? People always talking about, he's not humbling himself. He's not humbling himself. And like, he's talking to like too much confidence, but people mix up, it's a Ray Lewis line now, controversy and confidence. He's like, some people call it controversy. I call it confidence. The whole message is that he's performing, it's an Aristotle virtue of character and the Nicomachean ethics. It's called greatness of soul. I talk about it all the time on stream. It's one who's concerned with magnificence, and more importantly, one who knows that they're capable of magnificence. So one who's concerned with becoming great at something, and they're concerned, they know that they are capable of it. In hip hop, they talk about it all the time. It's like one of the values pillars of hip hop, right? You talk about like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm great, I'm great. It's ego, 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 but in a healthy sense that you're constantly making a mantra in your brain to tell you that, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I'm gonna do it, it's my time, right? Like that stuff is so, so important in order to overtake when you're in a situation. Oh, thank you for the follow. That stuff is so important to overtake a situation when you're against Goliaths, right? You know what I mean? That's the thing that you need, is the challenger mindset. No one has any expectation of you, but that doesn't mean that you can't have any expectations of you, right? So you do everything you possibly can. You come in with a focus and a veracity that no one else is going to have, because maybe that weekend, it might just be your time, right? What up, Ty? Bear Pop? Curbs? Does that make sense? And then once you've achieved, then that's when you actually have to keep it in check. Now you're the champion, right? I did it. Oh, I'm fucking sick, kid. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm a hot shit. And you have to move past that mindset. Sorry. No, I don't get it. Say it again. And that's the part where we don't keep ourselves in check sometimes. I think I'm you feel like you're too good for this. That's the message of, it's not about you. The fear of losing combined with the arrogance that you believe that you shouldn't lose. Like this, I shouldn't lose to this person. That's what Daigo talks about all the time, where he's like, hey, I have to fight, like every match I play, I'm playing like it's grand finals. Just don't lose. Brutus actually reminded me of something funny last night. Brutus said, we were watching God of High School, and Brutus is like, yo, I vibe with whatever. And I can't remember exactly how the line went, but it was like, I don't want to win, but I hate losing. It's not that he cared about winning. It's just that he does not want to lose, right? That fits like kind of right inside of it, right? I try to be humble and set my own expectations. People were trying to, whoa, man, it's going fast. People were trying to set expectations on me. Yeah, exactly. It was really messing with my mind. Exactly. Right? Brutus humbled me. I actually watched that match with Brutus as you played it. Yeah, like and that's the part that's okay. You know what I mean? You could have gone 0-2 in the next tournament Metro, right? It wouldn't have mattered. It doesn't take away from your skill. You didn't suddenly regress. The very fact that people say that is because they just have a lack of understanding, like in so many ways, and that's why it's really hard when you're that person that constantly has to receive people's opinion on you. But understand that in the nature of, especially if you're a streamer or anything, it's just that's just the nature of the game, right? We have another aspect here that's is a more specific example to streamers. You're an entertainer, you know. I know when I'm gonna get on stream. Wow, I should really turn this off. I know when I'm getting on stream and I'm in here and I'm playing, I know that I'm losing more often than not than I'm gonna win today when I log on to ranked and I'm on stream. Why? I do very bad when I'm on stream, trying to talk with you guys. I might be trying to focus on something. Maybe there's lag and I'm like, oh God, and I'm thinking about chat, thinking about what I'm going to do. And it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because they end up saying stuff regardless. Like, man, you're trash, Pax. Get wrecked, scrub. You know, like all these things, right? Thinking about this ass. Yeah, exactly. So it's a good thing to practice dealing with that stuff mentally. I mean, that's literally like what champions have to do. Right? That's why I always root for damn Pax getting pounded. Like that's why, like here's a football example. Like the Patriots with Tom Brady, a lot of people get so frustrated with these guys winning all the time and they're rooting for the underdog. You know why I don't really care about rooting for underdogs is because it takes so much more to be consistently winning than to win one time. Like the mental, right? In order to stay consistent and manage expectations on a daily basis is one of the most difficult things all the time. And the more you win, the higher the expectations get. Regardless of what anyone says, we subconsciously do it to ourselves, right? And it only gets amplified by every single extra comment that anyone says, right? The more spectacular the comments, the more spectacular the ego grows. And that's a good thing. It's normal for that to happen, and it's okay. That's why I want people to understand it's a fine balance that you have to run. It's okay to have an ego. It's okay to have confidence in yourself. It's okay to recognize your achievements and be happy with them. Don't be perpetually non-satisfied, otherwise you can't appreciate. You have to understand, it's not, there's so much. If you really want to explore the depth of what someone's feeling and they can't even express themselves, you know, like that's a thing too, right? Like there are people that you're getting a mountain of emotions, they might not be able to express that themselves, right? Just like people can't even express necessarily or articulate everything that's happening within the game. You know what I mean? Finally did the combo, 4 days of trying, another 30 minutes, just out. All right, Gav, let's go. Now, while we were talking about deep shit, I'll let my feels hang out. For me, it's less about what other people think about me. It's more about dealing with the feeling of personal inadequacy. That's my aversion of losing. Yeah, right? Exactly. So like that is how you perceive yourself, right? The whole thing always boils down to two fundamental things: self-identity, self-worth, right? Your perception of yourself is this, and this thing of losing makes us it makes us think that it's changing the perception of ourselves from our point of view. And then that's what questions our self-worth, right? The simple idea is if you're losing constantly one day, sometimes we get really down about it and we're like, what is wrong with me, right? But sometimes maybe you're just having an off day. You know, that happens and it's okay. You can't allow a win or loss to meddle, right, with your self-perception and your self-worth, right? And that the reason why these things happen is goes from an individual to individual basis, right? As an example, just in itself, forget about even tournaments, right? Choosing like how people choose to do ranked or not do ranked, right, is all built around that too. People will not play ranked. I'll put it this way. There's a line in this show called Community, okay? And there's this character who's played by Donald Brown. Donald Glover. Why did I say Donald Brown? Donald Glover, right? Childish Gambino. And then another character, the main character, Joel McHale, whose name is Jeff Winger. Troy and Jeff, Troy is Donald Glover, are talking. And Troy was like this high school football star, had scholarships, everything, was the man. And they all end up, Community is about all of these people from weird tracks of life ending up in community college. And they all end up getting together. Okay. So there's this part towards the early part where he's trying to work with the feelings that like he's trying to be who he was when he was at his greatest, right? It's an ego related thing. And he has this Letterman jacket of when he was on the football team and he wants to wear it. And he goes to Jeff towards the end of the episode and he's like contemplating on it. And he's like, Jeff, he's like, if I wear the Letterman jacket, he's like, I want to because it reminds me of who I am and I think it's cool. But I feel like if people are looking at it, they just think that I'm living in the past. But if I don't wear the Letterman jacket, then I feel like people are going to think that I'm afraid to wear it because I think that I look weird in it. And Jeff just simply says to him, he's like, whether you're wearing the Letterman jacket because you're living the past or you're not wearing it because you think you're going to be made fun of, remember, no matter what, you're doing it for them. Like that was the key line. The whole point is a lot of times the choices we make, like if you look at ranked, the choices we make when we go to play ranked, avoid ranked, only play a few matches, one and done, rage quit, play just for the fuck of it and play whoever you want, BM a match, all of these choices, a lot of the times, more often than not, when people are explaining that they're doing something or not doing something, they're usually a lot of times doing. That's what's interesting when you hear socially when people talk about like certain ranks, right? I've never BM'd in my life. I'm too pure. Well, you know what I mean. The point is some people will only play ranked for a bit. Some people avoid it completely and they're like, I only want to play battle lounges because it's too volatile, right? Some people are purely playing battle lounges for the sake of that they want to play battle lounges. The thing is, being a good detective and identifying, and for me, like I do so much teaching on my stream for people that you find once you kind of like sift through all the shit that they say that a lot of times they're just doing it out of fear. They don't want to do it because even though they say they don't care about the points, they actually do, in the sense of when you see you lose and you see the points going down, it affects them mentally. And they lose enough and they just completely tunnel vision. When they play ranked and they have the fear that they might lose, you tunnel vision and you just focus about winning. You just want the match to be over. You don't do any of the things you practice, right? You're just autopiloting certain options, right? These things happen all the time because of the fear of being in ranked and the feeling of watching your points go down, right? That's why it's okay to say, I care about the points to an extent that I don't like watching them go down. But also it's not that I'm trying to become the highest point person on Street Fighter V, right? That's why I always ask people when I'm teaching them, like, be very specific about your goals. Are you trying to be the person with the highest points, or are you trying to become the best player you can be? Because, by the way, guys, those are two different goals. They're not the same goal at all. I'm trying to become Trashbox. And that's a very, very important thing. And if you really believe that you don't care about the points, then technically it shouldn't matter whether you play ranked or not. And it shouldn't matter whether your account is Grandmaster, UGM, Bronze, Rookie, Diamond, Megazord, Warlord, Explosion rank. Like it shouldn't, none of those things should matter. You should just be focusing on what you're doing, right? Zaf was talking about it yesterday. I talk about this all the time. There's different styles of play that you have to commit to. If you're just playing to win, play to win, right? Do whatever you got to do. But if you're trying to learn something new, then understand that you have to kind of commit to that. So it doesn't really matter if a loss shows up on the screen or a win shows up on the screen. You're just committing to the fact that you're trying to learn something new. And understand that usually in the process of that, you're gonna lose. Like it just happens, right? That guy isn't in the process of learning most likely on the other side of you, right? He's just like, how do I kill him most effectively? I'll kick my router if I have to. I don't give a goddamn, right? So more my theatrics, but the idea, pay class and I learned it all with pay class from Professor Pax, and you can too. Let's transition that video, everybody.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. My name is Professor Paximus Waximus. You're probably wondering why you're here. Well, I know why you're here. You're trying to level up in Street Fighter. I also know that you blow, and I know it. You may have heard of terms such as footsies, neutral, fundamentals. I mean, what even are those? Do you know what they are? You may have heard them around in some Twitch chats. You may have heard them on Twitter. You may think you have them. Well, you don't, and I know it. At Professor Pax's classroom, I'm going to teach you what each of these truly mean, and I'm going to show you how to master them. Are you slowly slipping into an existential crisis as you watch your points go up and down in ranked every day, but you're not really getting anywhere? Do you constantly question your self-worth because Street Fighter V reminds you of how bad you are? Are you unable to satisfy your wife, pay your mortgage, or give your kids a brighter future? Well, I can help you with two of those things. At Professor Pax's classroom and private lessons, we'll teach you the consistency and the discipline to level up in Street Fighter and get you beyond where you want to go. I don't care what they've told you. I don't care if you play a bottom tier character or you've heard things like, oh, this character can't beat this character in a matchup. Because at Professor Pax's training grounds, for only a nominal fee of $6 a lesson and $12 for non-subs a lesson, I will bring you to Grandmaster with any character in the game. I don't care about matchups. I don't care about tier lists. None of it is gonna matter because you can just win all of these fundamentals neutral. Let's do it again. Can you shut up? I'm trying to do this bit right now. You're making it very difficult for me. Can you stop being so cute? You take all the attention. Yeah? Okay. All right. Well, we tried.